Yo, it's that time. Get ready to unwind with Jillian on the mic. The best you'll find. Pop that cork. Let's start the chat on the PoliWine podcast where it's all that. Join the crew as we dive into the scene. Current events heated. Know what I mean? Jillian.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on PoliWine, where we'd like to take a deep dive into stories pulled from the media and have a fun time while breaking it down. I'm Jillian, and let's get into it. Well, last week's episode, we tried out a new intro song, and yes, we had a little bit of a hiccup. My face was blanked out for the first 30 seconds, but I do want to know your thoughts and opinion on the intro song. We're going to try out a few different versions over the next several weeks, but I would love to hear your thoughts. So please go to Instagram at PoliWineTime and let me know what you're thinking. I'd love to hear. So now, moving on to some other topics, let's get into the world of politics because there is so much to get into and we're only halfway through the week. So today, we are in day 16 of the government shutdown, and I can tell you it is a mess. People are stressed out. They're freaking out. I live in the DC, Baltimore metro area, and it is tense in this area. We are feeling it far and wide, and it's all across the country. And I have talked to so many people recently that are like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I continue to stay at this government job that I'm not working. I don't know if I'm going to have a job to go back to. I don't know if I'm ever going to get paid for the time off. I don't know how long this is going to continue. So the uncertainty that people are feeling about their lives it's a mess. It's a mess. I feel so bad for everyone. I mean, people are stressed out. They don't know what to do. Do they pivot? Do they stay? Where do they go? I mean, people are saying to me, Jillian, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm going to have a job in the next couple weeks because it's already been 3 weeks. I don't know if I'm going to get paid. I don't know if I'm going to have a job to go back to. So I don't know what to do. I've already gone several weeks without money. How long can I go? Do I start looking for another job? I don't know. Food's not getting any cheaper. It's getting more expensive. I don't know if the next several weeks, if my insurance is going to go up, if I'm going to have insurance, God forbid, I have some medical emergency that could financially wipe me out. I'm hearing a lot of this. So the panic is real. It is real. And you know, there was a vote today in the Senate that did not pass. So we are still at a standstill. So we are feeling this far and wide. One example, in this DC metro area, we have several major airports, right? International, domestic, and every morning on the news, that is a major topic, is just the chaos at the airport. It is a mess. There's delays, cancellations. It is chaotic, to say the least. And, you know, this industry was already stressed and strapped and understaffed before this shutdown. We knew this. We already had some in-air emergencies and incursions, on-ground incidences. So we already had that leading up to the shutdown, and now it has amplified this situation in such a negative way. It's bad. Congress, you are still getting paid, and while everybody else around you is not. And this infighting, I understand your positions, but at some point you got to come together. You're going to have to start making agreements. You got to get something done. People are stressing out, and they're going to turn quite quickly. We're getting loud. We're getting stressed, and midterms are right around the corner for many of you. So get out and vote. Get loud. When we get louder, they hear us. So make your voice loud and go call your congressman, your senator, your House representative. Let them know what you are thinking and your feelings, and tell them, get their ass in the chair and go vote. These are our livelihoods. And what is happening to the United States of America? We can't get along, and this divisiveness is only getting worse. So come on, let's come together for the American people and let's get back in action. Let's get back to work, everyone. You know, we the people want to work. We want to get paid. Congress, what are you doing? Okay? This is serious. Now, let's move on to some other things. Well, Trump has had quite a whirlwind of a week, and some quite triumphant moments for sure. Started off in Monday in Israel, speaking to Israeli government and to the Israeli people, and he was there to start to broker this peace process in the Middle East. And look, whatever you think of him, this really was, yes, we heard historic, momentous moment. Yes, it is. It truly was. And the people of Israel were just so thrilled and chanting and cheering him on and wearing MAGA hats. And, you know, Trump, your name will be cheered and praised in Israel for many decades to come. I personally believe that, because what you achieved here with this just persistence and conversation, and there's a little pressure behind it for sure, but you're getting it done and you're making it happen. So applause to you. Bravo for all involved. We're seeing some light at the end of this fight. And I really hope that we can keep this going. So Trump started off on Monday speaking to the Israeli people and government, and then he was off to Egypt to start this this Gaza peace summit in Egypt, where several countries came together. They signed an agreement to start the first phase of this peace process, and that was to have a ceasefire, to return the hostages, and we'll go from there. But the hostages did come home, and that moment of seeing these hostages being reunited with their families was emotional. It pulled on every heartstring, but it was such a magnificent moment to see these families that have missed their loved ones, that have been held captive and were kidnapped 2 years ago, to see them back and in the embrace and love of their family. It was so special and just such a beautiful, beautiful moment. And I do hope the remains of the other hostages are returned soon. As of the last count that I could find, 9 remains of the hostages have been returned. I just hope that soon those family members get the remains of their loved ones so they can put them to rest and start the process of mourning. But they all need to be reunited and have their time together. But it is special and wonderful for some, but we still need to be mindful and empathetic to those who are still waiting to be reunited with their loved ones as well. I want to remain optimistic. I do have some reservations on being just overjoyed, because I have seen things like this when things start to happen and we're moving forward in a process and some things fall through. There's a lot of deep rooted tension and conflict in that area. So that's been going on for so many years, decades, centuries. I hope we can put all that aside and truly move forward with peace, it really would be something special. And to have a change and happiness and joy and prosperity and where everybody can live together in that area would be something just remarkable. So let's hope the peace and it can continue, and let's start the rebuilding there, because for the refugees that have been who have been displaced, they're coming back to nothing, to destruction. There's no infrastructure, there's no water, there's no sewage. So they have to start right away to rebuild and move forward. So let's keep the goodwill going. I hope we can. It really is something truly wonderful to see, and I hope we can continue. Now, not only do we have that, we also have the whole situation with Argentina. Now, we are struggling here financially here in the US. We are feeling the crunch. Prices are not coming down with food and like medical expenses like that. So prices are soaring here. We can't get our government working together. A lot of inaction and a lot of confusion and conflict. But just yesterday, Trump announced that they are going to give a loan or a bailout to Argentina for around $20 billion to help prop up their economy. Well, now the Department of Treasury is coming out saying, did we say 20? Well, it might be more like 40 billion. So give or take a little billion. Now, we don't have the details on truly what was signed with Argentina, and we're still trying to get the details on what was signed out in the Gaza Peace Summit the other day. So we are really trying to get the details on what was signed. But as of now, that is what we know. So I want to be the courier of goodwill as well. But can we please get things in order here first and then move to help everyone else, because people are really struggling here. And yes, I want to help so many people, but there's just so much that we have to kind of get organized right now. Now, not only that, as we're trying to get details of all the fast, fluid, things that are coming in politics. Well, did you hear about the new Pentagon press policy? Well, the other day, Hegseth basically asked the press corps that they said that they need to sign, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing here, that all information must be approved by the Pentagon for the press to release. Well, pretty much every news outlet refused to sign this policy. It started off right away, like the major networks like CNN, Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS, they're like, we are not signing this at all. Are you kidding me? You're not going to censor us. We're journalists. Our job is to get the story, find the facts. Well, we're not going to sign it. And now pretty much every news outlet, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, you name it, the ripple is going on. They're refusing to sign it because that is the core of journalism, free speech. What are we doing? And of course, Hegseth said, this is not censorship. We just want to make sure the information's accurate. And I'm just, again, paraphrasing. We just want to make sure that the press is giving accurate information. And the press is pretty much saying, no, this is strict censorship. And you're not going to force feed us your story and then we have to report it. That's not journalism. That's basically us relaying your story. So we are not doing it. We are not signing it. And I think the only outlet right now, news outlet that has signed it is OAN. So, there you go. And if there's no press in the press room, Who is Caroline Levitt going to yell and get mad at? I mean, she's got to have, like, I don't know. Does she have a punching bag in her office or a shelf full of jars of tears? What is she going to do? I don't know. But it is really fascinating and shocking thing to see, just this slow, I don't want to say squeeze of rules and regulations and freedoms. I'm having a really hard time with this. So again, please, people, make your voice loud. Let's call your state representatives and make your voice heard. Okay. This is the only way we can get through and make things happen. So it is really, unprecedented times. It is. I don't want to keep saying that, but it really is perplexing. I am just truly baffled by what is happening in politics today in this country. Wow. Can we please bring back civics? Can we teach civics in schools again? This is what we need to do, because I feel like everybody's forgetting the roles of our governments here, the different branches and what their roles are. And let's teach history while we're at it, because if you teach history, you know history. We will not repeat history. Okay? Now that we've dipped our toes a little bit into politics, now let's just jump right into the deep end, into the world of entertainment. So let's start off. Can we just give a moment of tribute and respect to Diane Keaton? Diane Keaton passed away the other day at 79 years old. That was quite the shocker for everybody. We knew nothing of any illness or of any ailments leading up to this passing. And to have somebody who was so well respected, iconic, her whole life was in films, and she had masterpiece roles. I mean, come on. The Godfather, does it get any better than that? And that was so early on in her career. I mean, where do you go from that? And yeah, she just kept going uphill. Just remarkable. And we did find out, her family did come out, release a statement on the cause of death. And we did just find out that she passed away due to pneumonia. But what a life. What an artist she really was. And we were all better and a little bit more rounded to have that art in the world. She left behind really an incredible legacy. So thank you, Diane Keaton, for all you did. And when you hear other people interviewed, when they are asked about her, they all, pretty much unanimously say she was just kind. Put everything off to the side. Yes, fashion icon, entertainment legend. She was kind. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's what we all want to hear about us. If what others say about us, we're kind and loving, and it's a wonderful thing. So thank you, Diane Keaton. You were one of a kind. Speaking of passing, there is this new docuseries on Hulu called Death in Apartment 603. And this is about the death of Ellen Greenberg. And in 2011, in January of 2011, the responders were called to this incident with this woman in her apartment who was unresponsive. Her fiance broke down the door. She wasn't picking up her phone, wasn't responding to anything, and couldn't get into the apartment. He left his keys in there and broke down the door and found his fiance stabbed in the kitchen in a pool of blood. And when paramedics arrived, they're like, I don't think you're going to need first responders. I think you're going to need a medical examiner and a coroner. She's passed and there's nothing we can do. And right there, and I guess the medical examiner declared it a suicide on scene due to what the witnesses said. That's the fiance due to what the evidence at the scene revealed. She had no defense wound. Well, this woman had over 20 some stab wounds, and the major one that ended up taking her life was just a large knife through her chest that impaled her heart. But there's stab wounds all over this body, abdomen, her back, the back of her neck, her head. So, okay, it was ruled a suicide. And the medical examiner came out afterwards, was like, you know what? I think there might be some other unknown cause of her death that might not be suicide. So, okay, there's a flip-flop there. And anybody else, other than those directly involved with like the medical examiner and the police, everybody else who reviewed her autopsy and the clinical notes were confused and stumped over this. Anybody else around this case was absolutely confused by these findings. They're like, what happened to this woman? And the clinical notes doesn't match with the suicide. And even former experts that came in afterwards, the family hired a PI that was former Philadelphia police. They hired other experts to review the autopsy, the medical notes, and the evidence. And all the other experts like, this does not really correlate with a suicide or anything that we've ever seen in our experience. And I just don't see how this could be ruled a suicide. So there has been a fight with the city, with Philadelphia, since 2011 to see if they can re-examine this case and see if they can be ruled anything other than a suicide. Because the family's like, there's no way this girl took her life. Well, it is a very interesting watch. A lot of questions. And the fiance, of course, anytime that something happens, the people closest to the victim are always usually the first people to be of interest, the first to be questioned. Well, the fiance was cleared right away, and still is today. But many have questions. But this on-again circle of, could this be suicide? Could this be homicide? Is really what is keeping everyone with this story. And the parents, of course, this is their only child, and they want justice for their daughter. So they are doing everything in their power and will to keep this story in the news because it keeps the interest high. So people keep talking about it, and hopefully more will get resolved. But it is just so sad. The family, of course, has taken the city to court multiple times, and they are going to reevaluate the medical findings to see if they need to change the cause of death. Will it remain a suicide, or will it be changed to a homicide? The medical examiner has flip-flopped a couple times. This is why it's so confusing. And just the other day, I think it was on October the 14th, the medical examiner came out and gave a new opinion, and they again ruled it as a suicide. So the family's distraught by these new findings. It's just truly devastating for them. It's really sad. But online sleuths, we need you. And boy, when they are on a mission and feel like there is an injustice to a victim, they really go all at it. So if you like that crime genre, go to Hulu, watch Death in Apartment 603. It's about the Ellen Greenberg story. It is really interesting. That night, listen to the 911 call. As soon as that 911 call happened, I'm like, oh, okay. That 911 call says all you need to me. Who has a call like that? Yeah, I was at the gym. Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't seem like a call to distress. That seems like somebody trying to get a story hammered out and documented right away. So, yeah, no. My spidey sense was up on that one. My little antennas were up on that. I did not. I was very it's disturbing. This poor girl. So, go watch Death in Apartment 603 on Hulu. And let me just say there is a new little limited series on Hulu that came out. It's on the whole Murdaugh family murders. Remember that whole case out of South Carolina? Alex Murdaugh, the attorney that came from a lineage, a pedigree of attorneys in South Carolina. Well, remember his wife and son were murdered. He was convicted of murdering his wife and son, and he took the stand. It was a mess. And then remember, he right after the murders, he was driving down a street and said that somebody carjacked him and shot him in the head, and he survived. You cannot make this shit up. And when this was all happening, like, oh my God, like this is like a Lifetime TLC movie in the making, and it is. Well, they haven't made the movie yet, or the series. Hulu did. And who did they get to play the mom? And can I tell you, this is the most perfect casting I have seen in a miniseries in a while. They casted Patricia Arquette as the mother who was murdered in the Murdaugh family. And she is so good. And I've told you in the past, there's a typecasting that poor Patricia Arquette is in that category in my book. Remember, she did the Hulu series. It was called what? The Act? I think it was called The Act, where she's Gypsy Rose's mom that had Munchausen. And all I can ever hear is Gypsy. Okay, well, yeah. Now she's with Maggie Murdaugh. And who is the guy that plays Alec Murdaugh? It is Jason Clarke. And then you have J. Smith Cameron, who, remember her from Succession? She was the best. And then Brittany Snow. She is the journalist in this miniseries. It kind of cracks this open. Really good. There's been 3 episodes that have dropped. But if you were interested in that case and you watched the court case when it was live on TV, and I can tell you, I watched every day. And the day that man took the stand, oh my God, he thought he was going to sell everybody on his Southern charm. No, it was a disaster. I still can't believe his attorney allowed him to do that. But that man really thought that everybody was going to believe his BS. And I mean, this family and this story had everything. They had the money, they had the excess, they had the crazy life, they had the success, they had the drugs, they had the drama, they had the dysfunctional kids that were just spoiled and belligerent. And I'm mostly talking about Paul, but they get into all of it. They get into the drugs, they get into the money, they get into the boat accident. Like I said, this is only 3 episodes, and they're getting into it all. The death of the housekeeper. Yes, that was on episode 3. Really, really, really good. Hulu, why are you gonna make me wait for the other several weeks? I pay for this series so I can binge watch. Let me binge watch, please. So Hulu, I am enjoying your docu-series and your series this week. Very good. The Death in the Family, it's the Murdaughs, and Patricia Arquette. You are so good. Jason Clarke, you're good too. You look a lot like Alec Murdaugh. I'm telling you, this is a family story that had to be told. And thank you, Hulu, for bringing it to us. I will be watching the other episodes. Now, I need to get into, I promised you last week, we're going to get into Miami, SLC, Salt Lake City. So let's get into our lovely, lovely ladies of Bravo. But let me just say, before I get into Potomac, what is happening? This is where legal meets our ladies of Bravo. Dr. Wendy Osefo and Dr. Eddie. Did you hear how they were arrested for insurance fraud? Oh my God, are you kidding me? I can't. Wendy, I thought you were so smart. You're the doctor. You're the genius. Dr. Eddie, what is happening? What is going on? This is where I always say this to all the time. There's book smart and then there's life smart. And it is so difficult to find those that have both skills. And that's kind of what I'm getting from Wendy. She's well educated, but anything that's not structured and education, she's stumbling with. She really is with her. When she had the candles, there was something else that she did too, right? I don't know. She had a hard time with that. I thought Eddie's cannabis line, I thought they were doing well. That's what she's telling everybody. But then you're going to get arrested for insurance fraud. And what has come out by the press, police did a press conference around here. And they said, I don't care who you are, who you're a celebrity, you're not above the law. And when they filed this insurance claim and the police came out to, doc everything and make a report, immediately there were flags that went up, first of all, and I'm just going to clump it together. There was reports that their bedroom and closets, their two closets were broken into, and luxury items, jewelry, bags, those kind of things were stolen. And the police were suspicious from the get-go. And I guess the police during the investigation and the insurance, of course, they're going to do their investigation. Things didn't add up. And the police were like, some of the items that they reported stolen, we found out that they were returned. And some of the items that they reported stolen, like jewelry, we saw them wearing in pics on posts on social media after they reported them stolen. And we also found some of the other items in their home. Wendy and Dr. Eddie, it's a shocker. You're supposed to be so smart. You put down everybody else for not being as intelligent as you are. And this is a foolish move, if I may say so. There's been quite other thefts with other housewives, but I don't know, Wendy. I feel bad for the kids. And your mom is never going to let you live down. But they have posted bail. They are out. And the OSEFA said that they await their day in court. I'm going to say these charges allegedly, and everybody will have their day in court and innocent until proven guilty. But just a shocker. The ladies in Potomac, I have truly enjoyed you so far this season. It has been fun. To the new women, I am enjoying. To the lady, from London, and your judgment is just kind of everything. But let's get over to Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City, even though you're just kind of kicking off the season, you have gone into some deep topics right away. Of course, conflict continues. Lisa is fighting with everyone. And Angie K, as much as I do adore you, I think you do need to take a step back and take a breather and let a few things kind of go. I'm going to agree with Mary. It's not that deep. It's not that deep, Angie. And for your freak out and blind rage, as Mary said, to get in the way of your relationship with Mary, it's unfortunate. It's sad to see, but Mary's got no time for that shit. She's like, I don't have the time or the patience for that blind rage. When Angie K was freaking out at that tea party, it was full on. And we have seen these ladies fight. And if anybody can fight, it's the ladies of Salt Lake City. They do it, and they do it masterfully. But it was on a whole other level. And if I can just say, the tarot card reader and intuitist, was it Terrence? This man, why is he not? He should be part of the Peace Summit as well. He is so intuitive and spot on. And man, he hit the nail on the head with every reading of Each and Housewife this week. And it is so funny. The cameraman and the editing, when Brittany, after she had her reading, she's like, this guy is the real deal. Like, he knew about the complications with my daughters. How would he know that? And then you have like the editing crew going back and showing for the last like 2 years that Brittany's been on. That's her whole storyline is the issues with her daughters and Jared Osmond. And we're sick of hearing about both of them. I really am. I'm sick about hearing about Jared Osmond. I don't care. And Bronwyn, during this whole luncheon, was quiet and just kind of took it all in. And her and Brittany coming together. She's like, look at this moment. Brittany and I are bonding. You two are still screaming at each other. It was kind of funny. And her laughing when Angie's like, I'm even okay with Brittany right now. And you just see Bronwyn laughing. But Bronwyn, I really want to get into this whole situation with your mom. We have talked about complicated relationships with mom. And you have been so forthcoming about your rocky past and the hurdles that you have had to leap to want to have acknowledgement and some kind of recognition and praise from your mom. And because you feel like you made a mistake at a young age by getting pregnant. Okay. You made a mistake, you got pregnant, and a long time ago, and you are still in this very difficult position with your mom years later, because your mom's feels like she's never got over that stigma, and she was embarrassed and shamed that you got pregnant at a young age, and she felt that she was the one that was humiliated. And Bronwyn, you really expressed it. She's like, all these years later, my mom is the one thinks that she's the one that feels shame and embarrassed by what I had to deal with. And when you were explaining some of the situations that you had with your mom while you were pregnant and your sisters were pregnant, oh my God, Bronwyn, it was really, I mean, I couldn't believe the story. It was just awful. It was awful. I'm so sorry, but you are really trying to take the high road when you hear your mom really saying disparaging things about you and just negative. And this is not passive aggressive. It's just straight on, aggressive. The things that she's saying to you and just mean and hurtful. And she's doing because she knows, and you still carry on this pain and trauma from that time. And your mom's just going to keep hammer it down because she thinks you were wrong. And she just wants to nail that in, that you are wrong. You made a mistake. And now we're all carrying this stain. And Rowan, you have a beautiful daughter that looks just like you. And you've done it the right way. Maybe not the way or the plan that your mom had for you, but you did it your way and you've come out on the other side. And Terrence, the tarot card reading, boy, he nailed that one down. He was like, look, I know you have issues with your mom, but you need to let it go because right now you need to focus on some health issues because I feel like your mom has let some of her health stuff kind of push it to the back burner because she was caring for somebody else. And yes, she had a surgery, but I feel like there's something else coming on. And I think right now you need just to make peace with your mom. And that was a major slap of reality. She was like, oh. And she said it so perfectly in her interview, Ron, when she was like, I always think I have another 10 rounds left with my mom, and I guess I don't. And wow. So Bronwyn, wow. Terrence for president, maybe. I don't know. And Terrence, you really were amazing. And I hope you get a lot of business following this past episode because you really were incredible. You really were. But now let's work our way to Miami. Miami, your reunion has really been about Julia and Adriana. And Julia, I got to tell you, I don't know if you can really survive what you have, this mess that you've created for yourself. Team Adriana, I don't care if you guys hooked up, had a few dalliances in the past, a little night tryst. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But for you to bring this up in front of everyone years later, I'm not buying it. You did the same thing with Gertie in the beginning of the season about she wasn't there to support you with the adoption of boys, and she dropped the Zoom call when you wanted to announce it. That one didn't stick with me either. And then the whole thing about the cruise ship, I did not buy that either. And now, because you horrendous to your best friend this entire season, and it is very clear that you did it because you hitched your wagon to Marisol and Alexia, and you thought that that was going to get you to the top, and it didn't. It backfired on you epically, and you thought the new girl was going to come in and be like, Alexia, don't you hate Adriana too? And even Stephanie, who seemed somewhat likable to me in most of the reunion, other than when she talked about her money and playing. She really doubled down on that. She was even like, look, Alexia and Marisol, yeah, you told me Adriana coming into this group, Adriana was going to be the worst and the most hateful. And she's kind of been the best. She's been the most supportive, the most likable, the most friendly, and the most fun, which I've always said. She's just like, I actually get along with her the best. So yeah, you two did do that to me. And it's clear that she did that to Julia. And this whole thing about we hooked up and I have these residual feelings about this, and I have resentment about what I did and how it's now affecting my marriage. And when Andy was like, does Martina know that you were going to bring this up today? She's like, yes, she did. So it's rehearsed. Yeah, it is rehearsed. And everything else that you do, Julia, sounded rehearsed. And they talked about last week about how you threw the bucket of ice in the other season, how you threw the cup of water on Gertie, how you were slamming the chair last year at the mommy's luncheon. And it all seems so performative. I agree with the women. It absolutely does. And to say that, yes, Martina knew, so you planned it, you rehearsed it, so staged. And now you're also putting yourself out there that you've been unfaithful in your relationship. And now that you put all the dirty laundry out there with yourself and Adriana and really are trying to smear Adriana's character, Adriana's like, fine. You're going to say you felt threatened to me. You felt that I was going to blackmail you and I had all this evidence against you. And you probably did. And you said if you weren't my friend and you turned against me, I was going to use against you. And maybe she did. Now you're the victim and this is all my fault. I don't know. It's a tough sell. And yeah, maybe she did blackmail, but this is just so poor how you handled this, Julia. And now you're reaching for any excuse you can to not make yourself look like the villain, and you're only digging this ditch so much deeper. And the whole one side, like we have Lisa and Gertie and Adriana, they're all like, whoa, why are you bringing it up now? And Lisa, you sound so normal. And I'm agreeing with Lisa. She's like, why are you bringing this up now? And now you put your dirty laundry out there. Adriana's putting your dirty laundry. She's already talking about that you had an affair with the mortician and you had an affair with a cop. And so, yeah, you do have a pattern of cheating on your wife. And yeah, she may have forgiven you in the past, but this is kind of private stuff. Now it's out there for the whole world to judge you and your relationship. And if you were already having issues in the past, which you said you and Martina were not in a great place, and not a good place, so now you're going to have these affairs and then throw in 2 young boys that you just adopted. I mean, people are watching and now you're going to judge. And Julia, you are really trying to right your wrongs here. And I don't think you cannot get your way out of this mess. I mean, take it from Stephanie. Stephanie heard the comments and judgment, and she course corrected mid-season. So, good on you. But women, I am enjoying the reunion. Julia, I don't know how you bounce back from this, but let's see where part 3 goes. This is the conclusion of the reunion, but I have enjoyed Miami this entire season. But I'm going to say it now. I'm going to say it again and again. Team Adriana. Yes, she's messy. She's really one of the most open. And I think if she truly did have an affair, she would have admitted it. I think so. And on a side note, did you see when the girls had the break and they were all in the room and Alexia's talking to Steph and she's like, I think Adriana made that whole thing up about Spain and the other times that she said that they totally hooked up. And Stephanie's like, you think so? Because Julia's a nymph. Like, she's constantly making out with everybody. And I'm like, yes, she is. She is making out with everybody all the time. So there you go. There's a history. There's a pattern. And where do you go from now, Julia? Because you don't have a lot of friends on either one of those couches. Because you can see Marisol and Alexia going, and they're just kind of sinking a little bit more back into those couches. So part 3, I will be watching you for sure to wrap up the Real Housewives of Miami. So far, so good. But that is it for us today on PoliWine. Please go over to Instagram and join us on PoliWine Time. And please listen to PoliWine wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time. Bye.